I'm John Skinner, and this supports Chapter 11 in my book, Fishing the Bucktail. I'm going to focus on spicing up the teaser hook on these rigs. In this case, I'm adding a Tsunami hollow teaser skirt to the hook, and this is very simple. This is the dropper loop above the bucktail, and simply going to push the loop through the skirt, and then the hook attaches as it usually does, and the skirt comes down over the hook. Which is really simple, and this is nice because this is very much easy on, easy off, and ends up making a very nice rig. And there you have it. And of course you'd be adding, in this case I add gulp grubs or shrimp to these. And there's a short video on my YouTube channel that shows all of the details of tying that rig, and it's pretty simple.
I guess that answers that question.
Before we get into the fluke, I often get questions about what other species we catch doing this kind of fishing, and we get occasional bluefish, and every once in a while a striped bass, and a few other things. And so my daughter right now is connected with a bluefish, and they give quite a fight on these little rods. On the other hand, they do a good job of tearing up the tackle, so normally I try to avoid them because they make a mess of things. But she's having a little fun with this one. So let me elaborate on why we've got the skirts on the teaser hooks this trip. You know, if you have just a plain hook, like we use a 3.0 Gamakatsu bait saber hook, if we have just that above the jig and put a 4-inch Gulp swimming mullet, you know, that's a fine bait, and that works great. And lately I've been using Gulp shrimp a lot instead of swimming mullet, especially in areas where it's muddy or you know, fish are feeding on crabs and shrimp and things. And increasingly I'm going for the Gulp shrimp. Now in this case we've got some bait around, sand eels, some other things, and I just decided, you know, we want to try spicing up the teaser a little bit and give it a little bit of flash, and these skirts just make a really convenient way of doing that, and they're quite durable. They last through many fish, and they're easy to put on, take off, so why not try them? And on a previous trip I'd been using them and doing very well, so I decided that we'd be using them again on this trip. As is often the case with bluefish, that one tore up my rig, so I've got another rod all rigged up and ready to go. And with my daughter fishing, at least we've got a line in the water, and I'm going to try to keep these rods rigged up in case another bluefish comes by and tears things up. So you get to see the tackle I carry. The only thing I carry for this fishing is what you see in that cooler. Not very much. Couple, I don't know, a bag of bucktails, 3/4 ounce to 1.5 ounces. I have a few 2-ounce bucktails in there in case there would be a really fast drift, but turns out I probably haven't used them in a couple of years. I've got a couple packages of teasers, some hooks, some leaders. That's it. That's all the gear that I'm carrying out there. Okay, and you can see Katie is hooked up again while I was rigging up, and she'll keep me pretty busy on this trip. And this trip's a little sad for me because a couple days after this she's going to head off to graduate school in Michigan, and it's going to be a while before we're going to get to do this again. It's a nice fish.
Well, you know what? It could be a meal right there. It could be a meal right there. Look at that.
So I'll say a few words about kids and fishing, and just bringing other people out in the boat that don't fish much. Katie's not going to set the hook no matter what. I mean, yeah, she's been coming out with me since she's like 6 years old, and she just won't set the hook. So one thing I learned early on with this kind of fishing is use really, really sharp hooks, and certainly those Gamakatsu bait holder hooks and the hooks that are in these bucktails are just, you know, those razor sharp hooks that they set by themselves. And you'll see during this video that you know, she'll just feel something and lift. So this fish here he actually was snagged on the bucktail, and what happens is you know, certainly I felt a hit, and they're grabbing the teaser and the bucktail's underneath them, and when you set the hook really hard swinging back, then there's a chance you might foul hook him with the bucktail while it's trying to hit the teaser, and that's what happened in this case. So I'm measuring carefully there. There's an 18-inch limit. I want to make sure it's definitely over 18 inches, and this one is. We're using 6-foot bait casting rods with 15-pound test spider wire stealth braid as the main line. We have a 20-pound test fluorocarbon leader with a perfection loop at the bottom to attach the jig, and a dropper loop 1 foot above that to attach the teaser. And there's a separate video for the rigging details. You might have noticed that one spit bait all over the place.
I think so.
So this is Eastern Long Island Sound, about 18 feet of water.
I know you're there. Look at you banging all over the place.
When the camera goes back over to her, you'll see her lack of a hook set there. She'll feel some weight and just lift the tip, and there it is. Yeah, and you know what? If the hooks are nice and sharp, the fish is going to lunge for the bottom and hook itself, and that's what's happened yet again. It's definitely a good idea to set the hook firmly, though. Especially with the larger fish, you want to get that hook to penetrate. And if you miss the fish, it's not a problem. That fish is going to come back, and on the underwater video, you see that over and over again. It seemed like she had a fluke on, but then it was a bluefish, and now it's a fluke again. What happened was she had a fluke on, and the bluefish grabbed the other hook. So at one point there, she had a double header of a bluefish and a fluke, but as those bluefish often do, it bit off the hook that it was on, and she's left with a short fluke. So you might have seen there, it looked like I was going to throw the torn up gulp over the side, and I just make it a habit not to do that. It's just like a reflex action there from having years ago fished bait, where if you had a piece of bait that you weren't using, you'd throw it over the side. And I don't do that with the gulp. I know the gulp is environmentally safe, but I don't know, the less stuff you throw in the water, the better. So when I have these used up but torn up gulp grubs, because every trip you're going to go through a few of them, I just toss them in the bottom of the boat and clean them out later.
Ooh. Or did you do it again? It's a nice look. He's short, isn't he? Huh?
If you watch this video all the way through, you'll find that most of the fish, especially the larger ones, ended up hitting the tsunami hollow teaser skirts, and I think they're definitely making a difference on this trip.
Nauseous. Okay.
Here's another one that most likely was going for the teaser and ended up getting hit by the bucktail from underneath.
I knew he was going to go. Wow.
Seems like every trip I end up hitting her or her belongings with a fish, so there we go. I slimed her jacket. Oh well. All right, Katie's last fish for a while is coming now. It's going to be a nice one. So she's hooked up momentarily in the drag slip. That's the rod we don't typically use as much, and so I'm just going to tighten it up a bit because I don't want it slipping too much. And yet it needs to be set properly so if you get a nice fish, it doesn't break the line because this is only 15-pound test braid. It wouldn't be difficult. And there she is. She's hooked up again. This rod doesn't bend as much as the other, so it's a little deceptive. Even for me fishing next to her to wonder if she's got a good one or not, but she definitely has a good one.
Just try to keep her bending the rod. For a good reason. But I can't hit him that way, Katie.
So that was a nice way to finish up. That one's going to go 6 pounds. And here's a picture of Katie with one of her keepers. And if you like these videos, please subscribe to my channel.